Hello and welcome back to Underlab. Undertale is a fun, whimsical little adventure about a young child exploring a huge cave. At least, that's what it appears to be on the surface. One question that's intentionally left unanswered is why we were ever down there to begin with. In fact, it's extremely open-ended. There's several strong reasons as to why the human either fell or jumped underground, and it's my intention to take a look at a few of these. Was it for the need of adventure? Did the human simply get lost? Or was it for a reason much darker? While mostly left up to the player's interpretation, there's no reason why we can't think of a few ideas grounded within the world of Undertale. Okay then, let's take a look. Well, you may be thinking within the very introduction of the game that we see what happens to the human. Running along at full speed, their foot somehow becomes tangled within thick roots clinging to the rocks, and they proceed to tumble down into the darkness. Therefore, it was an accident surely, and is an adventure that happens purely by chance. But hold on a moment, take a close look at the character who's depicted within the clip show. It isn't Frisk, as Frisk has 2 stripes on their shirt. This human only has a single stripe. The character portrayed within the introduction is in fact Chara, or Kara, the first human to fall underground, and Asriel's best friend. It turns out that we've never really been shown how Frisk fell. That is, of course, if we believe we are truly playing as Frisk. I've seen it theorised that if you don't go down the true pacifist route, you're not truly Frisk, as Frisk is a character, and therefore would have their own motivations separate from the player. Who can say for sure though? Anyhow, let's think of a few reasons as to why Frisk decided to climb Mount Ebert. A few of these will just be me having a bit of fun, while others are a deal more serious. Perhaps it was dark and stormy. Why Frisk was out playing on the side of a mountain, we can only guess. However, with nowhere else to go, you couldn't blame them for taking shelter in the same cavern we saw Chara enter. Were it dark already, it isn't difficult to believe that Frisk could easily fall in the same place the first human did. After all, it must be pretty difficult to miss such a giant hole, though maybe it was entirely intentional. We know that Frisk is an incredibly determined soul, whether with good intentions or evil intentions. Nothing can stop you throughout your adventure unless you decide to give up and turn the game off, which I imagine most players don't do. Perhaps then Frisk saw the opportunity for a grand adventure and decided to explore Mount Ebert. Known for being a place where people go missing, perhaps Frisk simply wanted to discover its secret. They were no doubt not expecting what they found, of course. Maybe then it was destiny. The prophecy of the Deltarune refers to an angel who has seen the surface, who will liberate the monsters from the underground. This is speculated to most likely be Asriel, as Asriel breaks the barrier at the end of the game, and even resembles a Deltarune just moments before doing so. However, there's a strong chance that the prophecy could be referring just as much to Frisk. While Asriel is the one to eventually break the barrier, it never would have happened without Frisk's interference. Frisk also fits the terms of the prophecy. They've seen the surface. Frisk could be considered to be an angel, by how kind they are on the true pacifist route. There's many times where Frisk would have been justified in acting on self-defense, but you never do on the pacifist route. Like an angel then, Frisk is free of sin. Finally, and most importantly of all, their actions result in the breaking of the barrier, and the freeing of monster kind. Frisk may very well be the angel referred to in the prophecy then. This doesn't necessarily explain why Frisk climbed Mount Ebert, of course. Maybe they simply felt compelled to, knowing deep down that they would somehow impact the fate of humans and monsters. Maybe Frisk is something of an explorer. While it had been many years that the monsters had been sealed away, legends and rumours of them no doubt still existed. After all, the humans are hardly going to just forget the sealing away of an entire race of creatures. Maybe then Frisk heard some of these tall tales and unbelievable myths, and so decided to find out if they were true. If so, they were undoubtedly pleased with their findings. Maybe Frisk never really fell down. After all, like I said, the slideshow in the intro depicts Chara, and not Frisk. Frisk could have found themselves within the underground in all manner of ways. Trash from the surface washes up in waterfall, and it isn't exactly clear how. Maybe this was how Frisk ended up within the underground, before making their way to the ruins. Maybe Frisk simply climbed down the hole, rather than falling down. Is Frisk some sort of authority on potholing? Well, after the events of Undertale, quite likely yes. Maybe Frisk could simply smell that amazing butterscotch and cinnamon pie from the surface wafting from the underground. That must be a pretty difficult temptation to resist. However, as nice as it is to think of the many whimsical and good-natured ways as to why Frisk may have decided to jump down a giant hole, the very end of Undertale hints at some much darker reasons. When talking to Asriel, he asks why Frisk decided to jump down, though he stops himself before suggesting what he was thinking. I feel that Asriel was about to implicate suicide. This may seem like an incredibly dark turn for a game like Undertale, but let's take a look at the facts. While it could be argued that Frisk is simply a good person, and that's why they choose to spare and help everyone they come across, maybe it's because they feel safer amongst monsters than they do humans. This seems unlikely considering that many of the monsters attack you on sight, though remember how kindly Toriel treated Frisk. For all we know, she may be the closest thing Frisk has to a mother figure. From what Asriel tells us, we know that Chara didn't like humans. Frisk may be the same. It is, of course, left entirely up to our own decision. At the end of the true pacifist route, we can choose whether to go with Toriel, or if we have other places to be. That to me is proof that the game is ultimately true to its mantra of being a game of choice. It's up to the player's discretion what Frisk's motivations are, and where they go at the end of the game. I'd like to think that Frisk isn't depressed or suicidal, and I think that's part of the point of Undertale. You get to decide, so feel free to leave a comment telling me what you think Frisk's motivation for going underground was. Personally, I'd like to say that Frisk was trying to break the world record for climbing Mount Ebott the fastest. Along the way, they slipped, and now we have Undertale. Now, I'm only joking, though it's just as reasonable as any other suggestion. Or maybe you have a totally different idea, perhaps one involving starmen or grey-skinned aliens. One of the two. At the end of the day, I suppose it's a journey in between the beginning and end that counts. Thanks for watching. This is really something we can speculate over endlessly, and feel free to do so in the comments. I feel a few of the theories I suggested are more likely than the others considering the general theme of Undertale, but I think for the most part Toby Fox wanted to leave it up to our decision, just like how our choices and morality are also so integral to the game. Anyhow, tell me if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.